Hello everyone and welcome to Biz Chats. Last week we were off. I was in San Francisco on doing some business, but we are back and we're back at it with strength and excitement because today we're going to be hosting Eleonora from Business Evolution. This is going to be her second time as an expert guest. She was so great we had to have her twice, right? But just as a reminder, Eleonora is a business and team development trainer with experience in the corporate world and qualifications in the field of education and training. She helps business owners and professionals get rid of self-doubt and increase energy and focus and motivation. So we're going to get her in on this conversation. I'm going to send her a quick invite. And then we're going to be talking about the pitfalls of networking. Should be a dandy one. Hello, hello.
Hi, Nuncio. Hi.
Oh, you're sideways.
I'm sideways because I see you sideways. So I should probably just a second.
Yeah, there we go, vertical.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
How are you?
Good. I was just mentioning to everyone, I was on a business trip in San Francisco last week, so that was exciting. It went really well. You know, it's always good. You know, it's always good to go back to San Francisco and nurture relationships and develop your business. But last week, obviously, we didn't have a biz chat, so I'm excited to resume it with you this week and talk about something that I think a lot of people are always thinking about. You know, the pros and cons of networking and if it's effective and whatnot. So I think exploring the pitfalls of networking is a great topic. It's a strong topic. I was mentioning to everyone that this is your second time as one of our expert guests. And because you were so great the first time, we had to have you on again, right?
Of course. I'm happy to be here. Very happy to be here.
Perfect. So I do respect your time. We have about an hour tucked away for this, but I'm going to get right into it with the questions. So the first question is there's a lot of networking events happening literally every day. You go to meetup.com and you can see just a slew of them. So I wanted to, I guess, from your perspective, understand what really defines a networking event versus some sort of other event. Like, is there a difference?
There definitely is. And like, as you know, I've been here for 1.5 years now, and I've been networking like crazy because this is the thing they told me I should do. And what I've noticed is that everyone uses this word, networking, to promote their event because they know that is very attractive. But you have to be careful because, there's a lot of discussion now. Is it networking a waste of time? And I'm thinking, well, you need to pay attention to the events that really are networking events and distinguish, and see which ones really are not. For example, some events are just promotional and they will say they are a networking event because they want to attract more people. For example, I was, at an event that was organized by an insurance company, and there was a special price for members, special price for customers. So it was more, it said it was a networking event, but it was more, okay, we would have a new product to promote. So I went there and I was surrounded by these people who were in insurance. You know what I mean? It's like it said networking, but actually it was a sales sort of event. It was a very different thing. The same thing I think goes for galas. Sometimes galas or business awards, they say they're networking, but I'm not so sure they are because you go there and, they celebrate something. A gala, for instance, people dress up, they have a good time, but do they really go out because they want to network? I'm not so sure. My experience is that galas are something different. And so promoting them as a networking event might be a little bit tricky. You have to pay attention to that. Business awards, again, I'm not sure. They say you have time for networking, but then you don't really. So you have to pay attention. And but interestingly, there are events that are not advertised as networking events, but they really are, like seminars, for instance. I think if you go to a seminar that is really interesting for what you do and is close to your area of expertise, that works very well as a networking event. So if you look you want to meet someone, just don't only look up, networking events in the area. Look for seminars or conferences about something that you're interested in.
Sure. Yeah. And I tend to agree with that as well. I think what happens is I truly believe from an organized, from the organizer's perspective, when they're thinking of doing a networking event, the approach is genuine. Mm-hmm. Like they may want to really, create a networking event. But what tends to happen is the people that attend, their approach is not genuine. It's not reciprocal. It's it's a one-way street as far as what can you give me? I'm looking for business. I'm looking for business. Yes. I'm looking for business.
Yep.
And you really can't nurture a relationship that way. And I like the way you're going as far as understanding that at the end of the day, a seminar or even what my favorite type of events to go to are panel discussions, because what happens with that is you have a certain topic that people are interested in learning more about from an education perspective, yeah. And all the people that are attending are looking to learn about that same topic. Therefore, there's a common theme. There's a commonality between everyone there. And then obviously networking can happen naturally at that point. But I'm with you as far as the overall networking approach and how that word is being abused every day.
Around a little bit, right?
Yeah. Now, why do you think networking is difficult for some people?
Well, the first thing I think is that, it's that first day of school kind of syndrome. You walk into a room full of strangers, people you don't know how to initiate a conversation. I mean, networking puts your social skills to the test, let's say, because you need to be able, it's about body language, it's about being able to be open and say something nice, and then eye contact. So it really puts everything that is your social skills to the test, and that's why it's difficult. And it happened to me last week. I was at an event and I wasn't expecting the setup. I grabbed my breakfast and then I walked into the room and there were tables and people were sitting at the tables, and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting everybody's standing up, which is a little bit easier. So there were tables and I had to approach people and sit down with them. It can be very challenging, especially, for somebody who's a little bit shy or introverted. If you walk in and you don't know anyone and you have to say something interesting and approach, that can be challenging. That's why certain people find it a little bit easier, but sometimes most people hate it, and that's why they don't go, or they say, oh, you know what, it doesn't work, networking doesn't work, because they really can't do it the right way. And like you said, they have the ulterior motive, they fixate on certain aspects, and so they go home and they say, well, the networking event didn't work for me. Well, you didn't talk to anyone, so how could it work for you? It's challenging.
And you're right. I think networking's not for everyone, right?
No.
So really acknowledging what type of avenue or channel is appropriate for the type of person you are is key, so you can have a successful experience. Like if you're shy to talk to people and you can't approach people and just easily engage in conversation with a snap of a finger, then obviously you're not going to have a great time at a networking event, right?
Exactly.
So that makes sense. Okay. Now, my next question here is, how can you choose? Well, actually, this actually is perfect for for the next question, what we're talking about. So, how can you choose a networking event that best suits you as an individual and your goals as a business?
Yes, that's a very important point, I think, because you need to know what you're doing, where you're going. So networking can mean, all sorts of things. So the first thing I suggest you should be doing is, who is it organized by? So look at who is organizing the networking event. Look at their website, look at past events. So you know what kind of organization are they? Are they serious people? Do they know what they're doing? Look at pictures from past years and maybe what did they do last year? Was it good? Was it interesting? So that makes a difference. Then look at what the purpose is. Like we said before, what is the purpose of the networking event? Look at the title, look at what it says, look at who is attending, because your intentions are important for going, like you mentioned before, but it's also important to see, why are these people organizing it? The demographic, is it women? Is it what kind of professionals? So you have to really be a little bit careful and have a strategy. for example, is it a dinner? Is it a buffet? It's going to be different. If it's a dinner, you know, you might ask, who am I sitting with? What's the arrangement? If there is, in my experience, if there is a very tight schedule, like, you know, those events that are really organized and they're super tight, do you really have time for networking? I don't think so. So if you look at, you know, you see the program and you see 8:15, 8:25, 9:15, we're going to do this, it's too tight. Just,
Yeah.
it probably won't be very, very effective.
It's funny you say that, because I was actually at an event that was like that, and it was, you know, advertised networking event, but there was actually literally no time dedicated to actually networking, because everything was, the agenda was so tight, right?
The agenda is tight, and then you can tell. So there's a little bit of, you know, study to do before the event to make sure that you're going to something that is going to have space and room for you for networking. Otherwise, you'll just be attending an event, which is something totally different.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think also a lot of people need to get it out of their minds that, you know, if you're going to networking events every day or every week, you know, the amount of networking events you go to is not going to make you more successful. I think, you know, if you're very selective and you pick the right networking events, because your time is precious, right? You want to be very effective with your time. So even if you dedicate yourself to going to one really targeted event every quarter per se, then that's the direction you should go, right? So, okay.
Making the best of it.
Yeah. Now, I think I just answered this next question, but in your opinion, what are, you know, the common mistakes that people make at networking events or while they're networking?
You know, I think the main one probably is inviting your friends. So the minute you know there's a networking event, you call your friends up and you say, are you coming with me? Are you coming with me? And that's not a very good strategy, because then you're going to be sticking with your friends and not really making connections with other people. So it's fine if you go with a friend because you want, you know, a recognizable face at the event, but you should maybe, you know, just mingle and then meet your friends later. Then giving out business cards like crazy is something that is still happening. And there's so many people who are saying you shouldn't be doing that. And just a week ago, I was at this event and we were talking, we're sitting at the table, and then all of a sudden this guy stands up and start going, you know, giving cards. That's not, so your business card, you know, bring it with you, but it's not about trying to sell yourself. That's what you shouldn't be trying to do, like giving out business cards and selling yourself, connecting with other people. And one of the other mistakes is talking to people, only to the ones that are in your field, because you think, oh no, this guy's in insurance, I'm not interested. But you never know. Everybody has connections. Everybody has someone that they could recommend. So it's about keeping your mind open to opportunities, and really engage in conversation with everyone, basically, because you never know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I also think that, you know, so I agree with don't be bringing a ton of your friends to networking events, but I also would want to put an asterisk that I think it's okay to maybe not go to a networking event solo. Bring you know, a colleague or a partner with you, because I think it's less intimidating when you have to approach other people. You could go as a pair. You could, you know, have conversation much easier that way, if that's the type of person you are. And I also want to add, I think one thing, a common mistake that a lot of people do at networking events is they like to talk more than they listen. Sure. So me. But, you know, you know, out the gate, like, what do you do? I want to learn more about you. I want to learn more about maybe how I can help you, but what do you do? Right. I think that's the approach, and just listen more than you speak. Right. Yes. And if there's a play to give out a business card, then of course give out a business card. But yeah, I don't like those rapid fire people that are just, it's like, what's all that, like, what's that about? I don't get it. There's no strategy behind that at all, or no potential of creating something genuine with people.
Exactly. Connection.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So next question here is, in your opinion, what's the best strategy to make sure that a networking event is as productive as possible?
because I've gone to so many events, and some of them I really didn't know what I was doing. I think the main thing is to think about what your goal is that week. So for example, say, okay, this week I'm wondering or, struggling a little bit with my marketing strategy. So this is what I'm going to ask all the people who I'm going to meet at the networking event. So you approach somebody and you say, you know what do you do with your marketing strategy? No matter if they're not in your field. So have a goal, wake up in the morning and say, what kind of questions would I ask this week? I'm struggling with a complaint. I want to ask maybe how different people deal with complaints so that you can go home with tips and advice. And one of the other things is come up with, it's just along the same lines, like come up with an interesting icebreaker. Instead of just saying, what do you do? Just say, okay, hi, what is your challenge this week for your business? Tell me about it. So the whole, what do you do, where do you come from thing, just it's swept away. You don't need that. Just go straight to an interesting conversation, interesting icebreaker. If you go to an event, like I said before, you can ask to be seated with someone specific. If it's a dinner, make sure that, and I made that mistake a couple of times. I wasn't interested. I was like, okay. But then I discovered you could call people up and say, okay, I'm coming. I paid for dinner. It's a networking dinner, networking, even breakfast. Can you please sit me with somebody who might be in my field? Or at least, sometimes they said, no, we can't do that. But other times they said, yeah, sure. Let's, is it okay if I sit you with this guy? I mean, the organizers want the event to work. So they will help you.
I would imagine so, right? Especially if they're promoting a networking event.
Exactly. So like you said before, it's a strategy, right? You have to make sure, how can I shape this event so that it's useful for me? That's why the spirit that you have makes a difference. Because if you go and only want to sell yourself from your business cards, you go home and you go, oh, I don't have any clients. Nobody hired me. But if you go with a plan and you want some information and listen to people, what they have to tell you, then every event will be productive.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, perfect. So we're halfway done, but I just want to remind everyone listening in, coming in and out, that this is sponsored by Business Evolution. So after we're done here, make sure you go check out their website, businessevolution.ca, learn more about what they do and how they can help you. Carrying on with the next question, Eleonora, how can networking go from opportunity to nightmare?
That happened to me a couple of times. Well, the nightmare, and you mentioned it before, is the indigestion. So it becomes a nightmare when it's an obsession. I have to be everywhere. I can't miss out. I have people that sometimes I mention, I'm going to this event. They go crazy. Oh, I didn't know. Where is it? And should I come too? And I'm like, you don't need to go to every single event. So it becomes a nightmare when it becomes your job instead of being a support to what you do. It should be something that you do on the side, but it shouldn't become like an obsession. I have to be everywhere.
I'm with you.
Expecting too much, that's when it becomes a nightmare. Like you said before, and we mentioned earlier, I want to get a job. Every time I go to a networking event, unless I get a job, it's been a failure. No, you have to be able to see opportunities coming from a networking event. So be inquisitive, ask questions, listen. And then, you don't just network to gain something, you network to understand certain things. It becomes a nightmare when, and this happened to me, when somebody invites you and is really pushy and they just want to sell tickets and you go and you're a fish out of water and you go, what am I doing here? So again, we're going back to what we said before. You need a strategy. If I had really taken the time to see what the event was about, I probably wouldn't have been there. But this lady was really pushy and I accepted. So you have to be careful because everybody has events to promote.
Sure.
And it's a nightmare if you're sitting at a dinner and you go, why did I even pay for the ticket? That's a nightmare because tickets sometimes are very expensive too.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think what a lot of people, it's like, you're right. It's almost like FOMO, the fear of missing out. And it's, it's almost more of a social event than an actual business event. But I think what a lot of people have to do is step back, right? Take that, that 10,000 foot look at your business for the year and, whatever your top 3 big business objectives are for the year or whatever it is, just, be accountable and be aware and really look at those events and say, will they help me achieve these business objectives? Yes and no. Like, you'll know, like, yes or no. And be very honest with yourself, right? And I think if you take that approach, then you could definitely avoid those nightmares.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Think about what you're doing, really sort of being aware, not just saying, oh, I bought a ticket, I'm fine, I'm going. So I did my networking, I'm fine. But how did you really get anything out of it?
Yeah, because with all due respect, if you even look at it from a life perspective, like, I'm at a point where I want to be very strategic. I'm laser focused on BizOn and growing our brand and continuing our momentum, and I'm busy as well. And with all due respect, if a networking event or a panel discussion or something doesn't really fit into our strategy or help us achieve our goals, I'm not going to waste that time, because I rather spend it with my family. Exactly. Right? So once you start thinking about that, I'm hoping a lot more people understand, okay, well, let's be a little bit more selective on what we're doing. Okay. Yeah, nice. So next question here. So this is actually a good question. So some organizations offer a higher level of networking, like networking on steroids or something like that. Yeah.
Definition.
Yeah. So what has been your experience with these type of high-level networking association?
Yes. Yeah, because as a newcomer, I wanted to try everything out. So I also went to those networking organizations such as BNI, for instance. And I'm sure that a lot of people know about BNI. I went as a visitor a couple of times, so I had the chance to stand up and introduce myself. Again, that is a very, like you said, networking on steroids. It really is. It's a commitment, and I wasn't able to commit to that because you have to go every week. You need to bring in referrals every week. For me, it was a little bit too much. It's once a week. You have to be there, otherwise you're out, and you have to choose. It was inviting, it was enticing, but I thought, can I do this? So you really need to make sure that these organizations are there, but they're right for you, for your lifestyle. And it does not mean that if you don't do that, you won't get anything done, with other networking events, because you can make the best out of any event, like we just said. I went to another one called Confab. I don't know if you know it. It's more structured. That was nice because all the people in the room, it's relatively new, I think. It's called Confab, and you walk in and you have stickers with different questions. So when you approach another person, that person will have written, ask me about my project this week, or ask me about a disappointment in my business this week. So it's nice because it's more organized. There's people being divided into different panels, discussion groups. So you sit down and you talk about social media, then you move to another group. So that was interesting. Then I went, the Vaughan Chamber organizes, the Vaughan Chamber of Commerce organizes a lot of events, and I think those are not structured, but so that's where you would need your strategy and your input and being proactive, because some events will tell you what to do. You have your sticker, you have name tag. Other events will be, this is a room, mingle. So there are different kinds, and you have to choose the ones that are right for you.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Now, keeping those networking associations or groups in your mind, how would you maybe improve them?
What I've seen is that I loved this idea of the questions that are already there for you, so that you avoid the whole ice-breaking thing. Because sometimes there's a lot of time that is wasted on introductions and how are you. I think if you have, like I've seen this question thing, approach somebody with, hi, what has been your biggest success this week? Tell me about it. So a little bit more structured. I think that sometimes networking events that don't have any organization tend to be a little bit, like a dispersion of energy somehow. Then I would maybe, I found myself many times in a room full of sellers and no buyers. Sometimes these events, especially for startups, you have great events for each other to meet each other, but then there should be like a connection between established businesses and startups. And I think I would organize more of those, because if you talk to somebody who's at the same level as you are, then it's nice because you make friends and colleagues, but you will really actually need somebody who's starting out will actually need to talk to somebody who's already established and say, well, this is me, what could I do? So having that connection a little bit more structure and more sort of more space for that connection between established people who know what they're doing and people who are actually looking for advice.
That makes sense. I'm very pro panel discussions. I think you know that from past conversations, and I would say I would recommend to any of those associations or networking groups to explore, you know, doubling down on panel discussions, because the people attending want to learn about that topic. There's a common theme, and there's a higher probability, in my opinion, of people doing business together because they're all interested in the same topic.
Yes.
And it's an education aspect to it as well. A lot of people want the insight, want the content, want to keep learning and developing their business and as a person, right? So that's something I would mention to them as well.
You're right, because the panel and like the seminar, I get it. What you say, it's so nice because then you have the Q&A, then you can meet, and you still go home with something.
Sure, and there's something to talk about, right?
Yes.
Right, so there's something to talk about. All right, perfect. So last question here is, what has been your best? Ooh, this is going to be a nice one. What has been your best experience and your worst experience so far networking? And the reason why I like this question is because you're new to Canada. You've been here for roughly a year or so. So you have this you know, outside view on, I guess, the North American or Canadian way of networking. So you have that raw look at, you know, what's this all about? So you can really see and explore if it makes sense or doesn't make sense. So through your experience so far, you know, what's been the worst experience and the best?
Yeah, so the best has been, I won't mention who it was with, but it was really interesting because I guess it was every time I got honest advice. And I still remember the people who gave it to me. So every time that I really came home and thought, oh, that was a good event, was when someone said, why don't you? They were giving me advice, listening to me, and then going, oh, why don't you do this? And I was like, okay. So I got, you know, advice and I knew what to do. Instead of just saying, oh, you do that, amazing, and just commenting, but not really interacting with me. So, and I still remember all those, you know, all the advice and the tips that I got from those people. I think the worst is the one that I mentioned before. The worst was this. I was pushed into something and I was at the event and this person had promised me, oh, I'm going to introduce you to this and that, so be careful. And then at the event, she wasn't even looking at me. And I was like, okay, what am I doing? So that was a little bit disappointing. I can say that was the only time that it happened to me, but it can happen. People push to do that. And then the worst thing for me is when I'm bored. So whenever it's boring and whenever nothing is going on, like you said, the panel discussion, there's nothing, just people walking around with their cup of coffee, for me was not enough. And that was a bad experience for me.
Yeah, I just see Andrew Wall just comment, that's why people love Gary Vee. He gives it to you straight. And I would agree with Andrew on that comment. You know, a lot of people at networking events or just seminars in general are very fluffy duffy and aren't straight with their advice because I truly believe the connections are not there. Like you really can't, like if I was someone that, you know, couldn't really provide you with accurate advice or feedback or guidance, I shouldn't really be talking to you. And a lot of these people go to these networking events, you know, giving advice and guidance on all sorts of topics, but, you know, their core competency isn't there. They're just trying to, you know, like little sharks, swim everywhere and see what's in it for them. But if you're genuine with your approach and your connections, you know, it's okay to look at someone at a networking or event and say, hey, listen, I don't think I could do much for you. There's no fit here. And that's totally okay. Like, move on.
It is a strategy. Because you need to know that it doesn't work like in regular situation where it would be rude to say, okay, bye. At networking event, it's perfectly fine to say, okay, I had my 5 minutes with you, now I'll move on. It's fine. You don't need to stick to the same person or the same people all morning. You just can just move around. It's allowed. Actually, it's good because otherwise you're wasting your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so it looks like this is the end of this Biz Chats. It's, in my opinion, this topic is a good topic. It can be a touchy topic for a lot of people because there's a lot of people that are pro networking event, and there's a lot of people that aren't pro or con networking event. So you'll always get those two types of audiences out there. I like to say that, and I'm not being safe here, but I like to say that I'm in the middle. I think, a balance of genuine connections and approaches at networking events coupled with a panel discussion or whatnot is the way I would go. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I think you've accurately stated throughout this whole segment that you need to be targeted with your approach and understand if that networking event is truly targeted for you and your business objectives. I think that's the bottom line, right? And if it is, it makes the networking event a lot more meaningful and successful.
Yeah.
Now I know we our last Biz Chat was maybe a month or so ago. So I did the rapid fire with you. So it'd just be unfair to do a rapid fire again. So what I will ask you as a final question is, if you could give the audience listening in live or listening on demand on our YouTube channel, if you could give them one piece of advice that they can literally take action on immediately at their next networking event, what would that be?
Go with a goal in mind.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm with that. I agree. And you know what's so beautiful about that answer? You think that'd be like, a given, right? But so many people go without a goal.
And I'm a firm believer in like the universe is going to send you signs. Yeah, okay. But still, you need to wake up and go, okay, what kind of questions do I want to ask today? Really, because if you don't target, you go, oh, I met so many nice people. And then, so you really have to have a goal and a question in mind that you want to discover how different people are dealing with your same challenges. That's
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Eleonora, this has been great. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
I also, a special thanks to your business as well, Business Evolution, for promoting this event and sponsoring it to make this all happen. For everyone listening in live, we will make this live for 24 hours, and then we'll have it on demand so you can view it at any time on our YouTube channel. And then we'll be back next week with another Biz Chats topic. But in the meantime, my little plug as usual, if you're looking to buy or sell a business or franchise, check out mybizon.com. Everyone, it's been a blast. I love doing these things, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.